Hey Mystic, how you doing? Thank you so much for stopping by and clicking on the video. My name is Teresa, and welcome to Modern Mystic Messages. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. In any event, Soul Family, I wanted to take a moment to talk to you today about generational curses, um, karmic lessons, ancestral wounds, and things such as those. All those things that go bump in the night. And I think sometimes in the spiritual community we get a little bit of a bad rap because everybody's talking about karmics this and the karmics that and karmics the karmics. And we want to think about it as people that have done us harm in our lives. And it's easy to say the karmic and be caught up kind of in a place of anger. And I hear it a lot in the tarot community because people get bitterly angry and the karmics did this to me, the karmics did that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I have karmic soulmates too. We all do. And I love them. I'm not angry. Quite a few of them I did have to cut off and keep cut off. But I'm not angry with them because I understand their place and mine too. Karma only means cause and effect. We've put a negative connotation on it because it's easy to blame karma. We have sayings, karma's a bitch, this and that. Karma don't wait, karma, and it truly it doesn't to a degree. But I think we put the meaning of it further outside of ourselves than we should, because anytime you have a karmic relationship or a karmic interaction, a karmic soulmate, if you will, truthfully, that person is in your path so that you can learn a lesson or the cause and effect. A karmic situation or a karmic relationship is only an opportunity for soul growth on both your parts. Now, if you're still left in a hurt place talking about karmics, this and that, and you're upset about what they took you through, then probably the other part of that equation may or may not have learned and grown. Or here's the thing, very often we've put them away from us after you get to a point where, let's say, for example, two of my major karmic lessons, and I'm willing to be the guinea pig and put myself out there with transparency so that you may be able to relate. But two of my major karmic lessons were codependency as well as worthiness. And it wound up bouncing off into a little side lesson, if you will. I picked up a minor in poverty because, truthfully, that relationship with money that kind of goes with it because it doesn't matter which side of codependency you're on. If you don't learn that karmic lesson, eventually it's going to drive you into poverty. It just will. And as an imbalanced empath, and from the ones that I've seen around with empaths, that's a huge thing because empaths always want to make it better for everybody else. They just want to help. And the more you just want to help, very often you're plunked down into a family or a familial situation that will give you those lessons of unworthiness, people pleasing, just want to help, and all of that is it's almost like the curriculum package, if you will. So until you learn those lessons, many of us over and over, we can name off three or four or five, starting from our families in childhood. Very often, if you're an empath that had to go through those lessons, you're the black sheep of the family, and you been on a rough ride on this awakening path, and you're still kind of stuck in those karmic lessons. Look back in your family situation. I guarantee you, you had at least one narcissist in your direct family line. You was It's the package deal you came with. And it's hard for us to accept that to some degree we kind of chose that before we got here. It was given to us for a reason, for certain lessons to learn. Sometimes even it's not even a lesson you'll learn on the front end because it hurts so bad. while you're going through it, but it was molding you for something so that you could have empathy for the people that went through those things, so you could learn how to heal and find worthiness and unconditional love and self-sufficiency, and learn how to shut down codependency. There's a lot of beautiful, beautiful lessons that come out of growing up with a narcissist in your direct family line, or dysfunctional families. And I don't know about you, but I haven't met anybody yet that had a completely functional family. Not one person yet. Everybody. If the family got more than three people in it, somewhere there's some kind of. And again, I'm not talking about nobody's family in a bad way. I'm not even mad at it, because I also understood early on that a lot of these lessons that we see playing out is a direct result of, now we want to call it programming in the matrix. They want to take a step back and make it be about, and that sounds crazy, but to a degree, it's the truth. Whether you want to say that it's a cosmic or spiritual contract, or programming in the matrix, there is a certain amount of, well, 99.9% of what we believe to be true, what we think is true, and what we're, the way our thinking and all of those things are shaped, that's done not truthfully by our parents. It looks like it's coming from our parents initially, but they only teaching you what they got from their dysfunctional people that raised them, and those dysfunctional people that raised them, and on and on and on, whether it came from the plantation or the other side of that, or the whatever it is, go back 3, 4, 5 generations. All of those people were only passing down the information that they were given. And what most people fail to understand, especially the folks that buck against the things that I'm saying now, I'm just looking at it from a little bit wider angle, because I realize that a lot of the things that are put into play now were very much deliberately done. Not by your parents, don't get mad at them. Not by your grandparents, don't get mad at them. As the scriptures say, we war not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. And if people understood really what powers and principalities are, it goes back to that whole Anunnaki thing. And even truthfully, if you want us to play the angels and demons route and any of that stuff, ultimately they all still at this point have kind of divided off between one of two factions. Because the two, like I said, there was two primary Elohim here. So they're invisible forces, but much bigger than our understanding or our scope of experience, shall we say. But it's not that these things are not known. We look at the tales that we see now in the scriptures and look at Jehovah, Yahweh, as the ultimate creator. But 5, 10, 15,000 years ago, they knew better. They called him Baal. They called him Yaldabaoth. The Gnostics understood that. They called him the demiurge. And even before they understood him to be all of those things, they called him Odin. And they called, he's been around for a long, 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 long time, and set certain ideologies into place because he understands how to manipulate through deception, misinformation. Maybe not an out and out lie, but hide the truth in plain sight. Only give them half of the story. And these are the things that have shaped the world that we live in and our entire belief system. So, is it any wonder these people are karmic? And guess what? Every single one of us, if we've been in a karmic relationship, you've also been the karmic. None of us are all good all the time, ever innocent. Came here with our halo and wings on our back. Get out of here with that. If you have karmic soulmates, you've also been a karmic soulmate. That's what generational curses are about. The scriptures even tell us about generational curses. It said from the father to the sons for 6 generations, 7 generations, I forgot how many it named, but on and on. And the longer you perpetuate something, the longer it goes. That's why I'm so bitterly opposed to many of, well, especially that major story they tell around Yeshua, Hamashiach, Jesus Christ, you want to call him, Esau ben Yosef. People don't understand, but when they buy into this story that he had to die for our sins, so his crucifixion was a good thing, that we need to commemorate it every year, and we need to celebrate his resurrection every year, they do not understand that they are perpetuating a generational curse upon that man's entire bloodline by reenacting this blood sacrifice every year. And some of the good folks, Catholics and whatnot, they do it sometimes every week. Got to take communion for our sins. He bought us with his blood. What loving God is going to require a human blood sacrifice for your sins? People need to really think about what we've been told. I get it, we've been told that, but they lie about everything else. What really make you think they telling you the truth about religion? Please, please, I'll wait. The very idea that we have to, we're dirty, we're unworthy, and we have to be under the shed blood of Yeshua. And this is a good thing. And the people that said that are the very same people that actually unalived him. All of the saints that we talk about are people that were killed for this belief, trying to hold on to this Christianity thing. But Yeshua wasn't pointing nobody to Christianity. He said, you don't know my Father. Because if you did, you wouldn't be doing this. So trying to hold on to Yahweh worship and then put Yeshua in the middle of it as the mascot, trying to say that he was saying something he wasn't saying. Every time we continue to hold on to that and refuse to understand and learn the truth, we are enacting a generational curse upon his entire bloodline that's been going on for over 2,000 years. That's how generational curses start. So it happened to him, and I'm not comparing any of us to him. He was an ascended master. He did reach that Christic point of ascension and consciousness. That is, he is Christos. But he wasn't the only one. He's the one that they spun that story around. And when you really start looking into the scriptures, most of the scriptures that we have are retellings of much, 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 much older stories from way before Yeshua came here. And even after, we're given the Bible as if it's a chronological telling from the Garden of Eden on through the Revelation. Most of the Old Testament has been arranged and redacted and put in a way to make it look that way, but it's not told in chronological order. And most of the scriptures after Yeshua's death were written by one man who was not a friend of Yeshua. The so-called Apostle Paul, he had no love for the Jews and absolutely no love for Yeshua. That's why he became the cornerstone of the Christian church rather than Peter or James, who were supposed to be in line to carry on Yeshua's teachings. Quite a bit of what Paul said directly defies what Yeshua was teaching. Another generational curse with the spelling right out of the mouth upon humanity and upon Yeshua's bloodline. People don't understand that karma thing. So that's why it just kind of gets me. And when people tell you talk about spell work, please understand. And again, I'm going to say this for Christians and recovering Christians, because as far as I can tell, they're the most violently opposed to everything. They will talk about false light and the this and the that, and don't they. I've had some Christians that were so holy that they didn't like the idea of incense and candles. Never mind the fact that incense and candles bust wide open every Catholic church all day, every day. They'll just about choke you out with the incense and candles. So if the incense and candles themselves are evil, then you need to think about the basis for what you're doing. But it also to be considered, everything they talk about false light, and that's the part that really we're gonna dig deeper into false light later, because that's very much a Christian saying. Oh, beware of the false light, and the devil is coming in disguise. They told you right in the book that the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. But Christians don't understand that the very one that they are worshiping in there is the devil. So the false light that they busy warning us about and hollering about is that's it. The very ones that screaming the loudest about false light and poo-pooing everything that could actually help you learn the truth and help protect you from some of this stuff come right up from them. So if you are having a hard time getting through your ascension, trying to get some understanding, you tired all the time, you can't figure out why, you're having all these crazy nightmares and you can't figure out why, all your relationships falling apart and you can't figure out why, no matter how hard you're working, you can't get your money right and you can't figure out why. And somebody that's coming from the spiritual, now I ain't saying you got to run out there and do everything, because everybody in the spiritual community don't have their ish together either. But if it's become evident to you and somebody's repeatedly suggesting that you may be either under some sort of generational situation or some form of spell work, and they suggest to you cleansing and prayer, or cleansing and prayer and or fasting or things like that, don't be so caught up in religiosity that you sit there and think that these herbs are evil because somebody tells you that you need to go and have a spiritual bath. The scriptures say that the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nations. Don't think that that don't apply spiritually too. When Yeshua was talking to the Essenes, he described to them how to do enemas, how to do fasting, different herbs you could take, things that you could do, how to cleanse the body and get this vessel, because he said straight up, this kind can only be removed by prayer and fasting. There are certain things that we need to do. It's not practicing magic, it's not evil, and it's not wrong to employ certain minerals and herbs or certain practices to protect ourselves against these powers and principalities that they had already told us in the scriptures are very active and we're at war against. It's ways to help the body. And again, going back to the scriptures, it talks about the body and the soul. Please understand, you are so much more than just this physical body. The physical body, this avatar, generally makes up only about 10% of who you are. Your actual etheric body, your auric body, your higher self, all of that, if they use Kirlian photography on you, your energy field spans anywhere from about 6 to up to 25 feet around you in all directions. Think you might not need some herbs and or crystals or whatever to tend to those energy bodies sometimes? You do. Because at the end of our core, and we've proved it, we're a crystalline structure. And we're becoming even more crystalline now in the past 50, 70 years. Look at the babies that are coming on this planet. They're evolving rapidly. And the more they track down our DNA sequences and structures and all that, they literally found Enki's blueprint in there that tells us that we're made by God. His maker's mark is written in our DNA. But we are run, our primary system is blood and water. We are 60% water. Water is a liquid crystal. We're affected by electricity. We're affected by by uh, magnetic surfaces, and we can affect electricity and magnetism. So that said, do you really think crystals aren't effective for us? Do you really think herbs and stuff don't affect us? Of course they do. And it's not wrong to be aware of that and use it for our benefit. Why do you think the crystals was put here? The Anunnaki didn't put them here. Everything on this planet was put here by divine creator. So if we actually use it for our benefit, why would it be wrong? Because a preacher on a pulpit told you it was wrong? While at the same time, the hierarchy that trained the preacher from the pulpit is using the very things that they're telling you don't use? Did we ever think about that part? That's the thing that used to get me. They tell us that the zodiac is wrong. But when they describe the Levitical priests in the scriptures, they had 12 stones on their breastplate. And they describe the different crystals, beryl and this and amethyst and lapis. And each one of those crystals has different properties for different reasons. And they wore them. But they tell you it's wrong for you to do it. We need to stop handing our salvation over to other people because mama and granddaddy said so. We're in the age of information and we need to stop automatically believing the lie just because they've been selling it to us over and over again in a game of spiritual telephone. Especially now that they're continuing to excavate more and more and translate more and more of the ancient texts that tell us otherwise. Christianity isn't the only truth, it's just the latest game in town. That's all. And we sit back in our righteous indignation and our haughty selves and think that we have all the answers because a lay preacher down the road told us that. And I'm not picking on Christianity. Please don't get me wrong, because the same thing holds true for Judaism and Islam. All three of those are Abrahamic, Yahwehistic, Enlilite religions. They all are worshiping the same, very same violent, bloodthirsty, jealous God. Lowercase g, because I cannot any longer refer to him as an uppercase God when I know better. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to proselytize or evangelize. If you learn something here, I'm just encouraging you to look in it and see. Because it took me years to figure this stuff out. I ain't gonna say figure it out. It took me years to get over my program fear enough to believe what I was being led to and what I was seeing and reading. But we're in the age of Aquarius. We don't have to live in fear anymore. We really don't. You can see, what do they say? You judge every tree by its fruits. Look at the fruit of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, and you'll know it ain't true. It says God is love, and there's nothing loving happening here on this earth. But it does match up very, very well to what Enki said was happening on Nibiru. That's why he was telling people, and discouraging people from this type of way of being, because he had already seen how the moral structure declined and it destroyed the people on his home planet. And at the end of the day, if you believe Bible prophecy at all, it says that the one who put this in here, the one who the whole world is lying in the power of, the wicked one, Satan of Eden, Yahweh, Jehovah, that one, right there in Revelation, it tells you he'll be loosed on the earth for a time and then he will be destroyed. It will be the death of a God. It's right there in Revelation. But then on the other side of that, Revelation 21 tells you that there will be another Elohim. It don't say another in there. It just says that God, Elohim, descends from the heavens with New Jerusalem after Armageddon is gone, after a third of the people of the planet are gone, after Satan and all his henchmen and demons are gone. They will be forever destroyed. But the ones who are not buying into that system, the meek ones who threw themselves before the throne and worship and we walk with the Lamb, with Yeshua, not not Christians, but the ones who truly walked with Yeshua. Chapter 21 says that there's another Elohim that's going to come down with the new base camp and he's going to create new earth here and they can rock out in peace. Go read Revelation if you don't believe me. I'm not making this up. And the thing that really, really kind of got me when I came to understand that Revelation was given to John by Yeshua. And he says that he's going to come back and he's bringing Archangel Michael with him and he's bringing this one and that one and the four horsemen. And they describe the destruction of the powers that be, including Babylon the Great. Now, here's the thing. No religion on this planet wants to think that they're part of Babylon the Great, the harlot. But look how religion and politics have mixed. Is that not harlotry? They think, well, no, Christianity is right. No, Judaism is right. No, Islam is right. What did Yeshua tell him? You'll say to me, Lord, Lord, didn't we cast out demons in your name and do powerful works in your name? And he said, and yet I'll say to you, I never knew you. Get away from me, you workers of iniquity. It's right there in the book. Now, when I had to really put my thinking cap on, if Yeshua was such a spiritual badass that he was literally braiding a whip and whipping them out the temple and telling them that they were doing the wrong thing and telling them that they were worshiping the wrong God, so much so that they unalived him for it, what really makes any of us think that he would come back here and ride hard for the same God that put him to death? That don't even make sense. And that's not what he said in Revelation. Because he came back and he's going to fight this battle, but he said he's coming back basically with his father. The same one he said, you don't know my father? They're the other Elohim in town. I believe Revelation 22 is not referring to Enlil Jehovah coming back with New Jerusalem shining like, even that description, don't it sound like a spaceship landing, descending from the clouds, shining like a diamond? And they gave dimensional measurements to how big it would be. That is a huge ship that was going to come back down after Armageddon lead. And then they said that Elohim will lead in peace. So no matter how you want to slice the story, it's going to have an ending. And Inky told us the first things will be last, and the last things shall be first. So they came here and landed and set a base camp. And at the end of Revelation, there's another one coming down from the sky, another base camp to clean up the mess after the Anunnaki war has its final ending when Yahweh is destroyed. It's in the book, people. But anyway, that got back on the other subject. We were talking about them generational curses. But it all kind of goes together because as generations, we have been cursed. We've been cursed in the darkness of ignorance. We've been cursed by deliberate subterfuge. We've been cursed amongst each other by buying into those things by our ancestors' choices. Joshua chose to serve Yahweh and put humanity 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 years under the gun. Choose for this day whom you'll serve. As for me and my household, we'll serve the Lord. That was a choice. They didn't have to serve Yahweh. They chose to serve Yahweh. Even though he was violent, kept threatening to kill them, never fulfilled his promises towards them, and wanted them dead. But they chose to continue to serving out of faith. In that instance, faith don't make you smart. It makes you a little ignorant, right? I ain't trying to talk bad about none of our ancestors, but Hebrews 11:40 tells you, for all of those faithful men and women of old, not one of them saw their promises fulfilled, for Yahweh felt that their faith should be sufficient. It's in the book. Go check it. I'm not going to sit here and read chapter and verse to you, but it's in there. We got to do better, people. And that's honestly, that's why it's taken me so long, because it's like, how do I say this? I know people are gonna be mad. They probably, but then again, like I said, they came after Yeshua. If I pick up his mantle, as he said, and walk in his footsteps and start saying the things that he was saying and walking in his light and truly and aspire to reach Christ, if I do that, of course people ain't gonna like it. But we really got to stop following along just because it's what people like, don't we? You know, most of us are wrapped into some kind of a religion because it's what our parents told us and what their parents told them and what their parents told them. But if you go back far enough, I promise you, go back 4 or 5 generations, especially if you're a person of color on this planet, whether that's a yellow color or a brown color, if you go back 4 or 5 generations on this in your ancestry, I promise you, very few of your ancestors were either of the Jewish, Christian, or Islamic faith. I promise you. Certainly, if you go back 10, I guarantee you they weren't. Because Christianity didn't even exist like that. I mean, yeah, 10 generations, yeah, it did kind of sort of exist, but not in its current format. And truthfully, at that point, the entire most of that was done on hearsay and rhetoric, because up until 500 or 600 years ago, nobody had a Bible to read. It was against the law for anybody to even have a biblical text in their home, and they would be slain if they did get caught with one. The first Bible wasn't printed until like the 1500s. So for anybody to think that has to be our be all end all for everything we know on this planet is a very, very small worldview that will keep you and your future generations stuck. That's another way of generational curses. Limit the information and keep people in fear. Because if we don't learn the truth and teach our children better, the curse continues. So that's one of the reasons I have to speak. At this point in time, my videos are only being seen by a few of y'all soul family, like 10, 20, maybe 30 people. But that's okay. Because there's a butterfly effect that says, if I keep speaking it, it'll get out there. I'm wanting to lift this curse off my family and yours too. But I've gone on long enough about that. We'll talk some more later. I'm starting to lose daylight. I'm going to get in here. I may actually do a reading for us. I'm going to go to the tarot table and see if anything wants to come out of the cards. And if not, I for sure will do one tomorrow. But until then, thank you for spending some time with me, rocking out with me again. Until later, peace and blessings to your soul family. I love you. Namaste.